Good morning and welcome to Authentic Conversations. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. How are you? So good to be here. I'm sorry I have not been here much. The universe is trying to do some amazing things lately, and things are just evolving. So while we wait for others to come in, please do ping your friends in. Actually, I think ping is the word on IG or whatever the place is. So please share the video for me. It's a very important for me to have because, as you know, I tend to bring a lot of things that I go through or work through to the table to you so we can all have conversation about it and share information with each other. So if you're here, just say hello to me so I know I'm not talking to myself. And also, if you'd like to join the conversation by coming into this, I put a link on top for you to just click on, and that will bring you directly into this. All right. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. This year has just been amazing. A lot of revelations are coming in. All the work that I've been doing in the past 10 years is finally coming together. And it seems like the universe is aligning some things for me in my life. I hope the same thing you guys are going through. Because 2022, I had, you know how every year I coin the year something, right? So 2022, I decided was going to be a year of intentional living, right? Which includes everything in my life, everything I do, the way I spend my time, the people I spend my time with. And as I started to do that towards the end of last year, I realized I was able to achieve more. Does that even make sense? I was able to achieve more. I was able to read more, starting to write more. Yes, even with my dyslexia, I started to write because I'd written a book. And because of all the bullying on Facebook, and I stopped, right? I wrote the book and I didn't send it to somebody to edit. And then the computer crashed. So I'm starting all over. And thank God the universe sent my wife. Yeah. So she came to edit the book. Bottom line is that we all have a story. And where you, I don't know what happened there with the winches have started again. My apologies. I was saying that everybody has a story, irregardless of where you are on your journey, irregardless of what mistakes you've made. Your story is very important because you don't want people to walk around thinking they're the only ones going through it, right? That's why it's important for us, those of us that can share stories, to really share it. So hopefully we'll be a light for somebody else. In saying all of that, I would like you to say good morning. Let me get my glasses on so I can see who's writing something on here for me. So today I decided we should talk about raising, how we are raising our children, right? So very important. And I say raising, it's not even raising because they're not like plants or anything that we're raising, right? This rhetoric of you have to raise your children, we're not raising them. You know, a basketballer wakes up every day and goes to practice so that when he gets on the field, on the basketball court, right, he's able to play at his best, right? But yeah, we hear this thing of, oh, raise your children well, you can't raise them. You can only raise things that don't have the mental capability to make their own choices. You can raise a fish, you can raise a plant, you cannot raise a child. You can train a child though. And what do I mean by that? Let's go back to basketball. When a player, something just happened. I think my dog just ran into something here. When a basketball player, just bear with me, when a basketball player wants to play basketball, right? The coach looks at him and says, hey, what position are you going to be able to play properly? You guys stay there for a second, yeah? My dog just ran into my light. So the basketball player goes to play, right? The first time he meets the coach has to evaluate which part, what part of the game a player is best at, right? The coach evaluates, should it be guard? Should it be this? Is he a shooter? Can he do a three-pointer? And then they train him or her to be the best version of himself or herself, right? Guess what we do with parenting? No, but first of all, nobody teaches us how to train. Before I got my driver's license, I had to, well, not in Nigeria. In Nigeria, they just brought it to my house because my dad said, okay, my daughter needs to drive. I was 12 and I got my driver's license. But in America, before you go get a driver's license, they make you take a class. Then you have to pass the exam. Then they give you a permit. Then they make you take a driving class. Then you take a 5-hour class that teaches you about the dangers of smoking and driving, drinking and driving and all that stuff, right? Then you have to take a driver's test. And that driver's test determines if you're going to get your license to drive a car where there will be other people walking around. Guess what? Guess what? To have a child, all you have to do is jiggy jiggy, right? I see that is a thing clearer now. Princess Ego, thank you for saying that. Is it clearer now? Please let me know. So anyways, bottom line is that at the end of the day, we are not being asked to take classes before we winging it. Guilty. I'm 50 years old and I'm just learning things that it seems like I should have been taught as a child, and maybe I was taught and I just didn't pay any attention. But hey, having 4 children has brought me to the point where I realize we must start to talk about how we are parenting our children. How are we training our children? And I'll tell you why. Sometimes people my age, 57 and up, I'm 57. I think people that are starting to have children, thank you, Princess Ego. People that are like starting to have children are not being told or taught how to engage with their children, how to have conversations that will not break the child. We're not being taught that. So, we're also not being allowed to train our children. We just assume that a person that makes their child work is a bad person. We assume that a person that makes their child respect them is a bad person, which the world has tied the hands of parents, in my opinion, at least in America, behind their backs. Yet when anything happens, we are judged on the choices and decisions of the children. Yeah, that's the way it rolls. If your child goes out to steal, in African culture, they'll be like, oh, who's their father? Who's their mother? No, you can't do that, because I realized in my old age that no matter how much you do for a child or give to a child, it's still up to that person to accept the training, right? Repeat, no matter how much you give to a child, right? No matter how much you give to a child, it's up to that child to accept the training that you're trying to give to them. Problem is, most of us are not training children. We've made them into our toys, into our pets, into our best friends. A lot of single mothers replace their partners with their children. We make them counterparts as opposed to children that needs to be trained. Guilty. What can I tell you? I'm guilty. You know me, I'm not going to come to you and start fronting like, yeah, I got it all together. No, what I have learned raising 3 children, I thought was going to be sufficient for me to raise our youngest son. Let me tell you 3 of the biggest mistakes that I have made, right? Every other child was raised, and by 14, 15, they got a job. But I was building a business. I was building businesses, running around, housekeepers, to give them the best that money can buy, right? Okay, here's the thing. One of the biggest challenges I have is that my youngest son now claims that I didn't spend a lot of time with him. I wasn't present. Not that he didn't get presents, but that I, Moji, was not present. So when I think about things that we do as parents, are you checking your children to speak to you with respect? Are you training them how to manage their money? Are you training them how to have emotional intelligence? Have you even allowed them to exercise their emotional intelligence? Have you allowed them to fall so they can learn how to pick themselves up? Most of us don't do that, especially biological mothers. And yet, when they step out and they're checked by other people for their lack of emotional intelligence, or maybe even, God forbid, the police stop, and they don't stop because they have, when their parent tells them to stop or to do something, they've never done it, and there was no consequences, then they go mouth off to the police. No excuse for police using too much force to deal with a situation. No excuses for a Black person being shot. But what I am noticing is that a lot of Black men and boys have been babied by their mothers. Because look, the reality is that 50% of Black homes are headed by single mothers. And I hate that word single mother, because you're not a single mother. You did not just breathe in air and you have a child. The other parent is not there, but there's no reason we need to stop calling single mothers, because you're not single. You have a co-parent. You have a person that you made that child with, even if you're not together. And part of the problem is that this rhetoric of single parenting, we forget that the universe created to have this child because of the two different perspectives that we all bring to the table. We both bring it to the table. Before you even start having kids, my God, you must remember, in my opinion, you must remember that that child will carry the DNA of the other person. And there's something called nature, which is DNA. And there's something else called nurture, which is how they grow up. You can give the child everything you want to give that child. If their DNA is lazy, includes being lazy, they're going to be lazy. If it includes not caring, lack of compassion and empathy, that's a disorder, right? That's a disorder. And we don't pay attention to who we're procreating with. We just have a baby. It's not even about marriage, because your marriage is between two adults. When you decide to bring a child into the situation without their permission, then you have to be strong. You have to become much more responsible at how you deal with training. Notice I'm not saying raising. I used to say raise. In 2022, it's about how we train our children, because we're training them to go out into the real world. Hopefully become productive adults. Hopefully become loving, kind, compassionate, empathetic, respectful parents, right? Hopefully becoming loving, kind partners, regardless of their sexuality, regardless of their social status, right? Let me stick to men. Let me stick to, I repeat, Black men for now. We continuously scream, they're killing our Black boys, they're killing our Black men. We don't allow them to leave the house. We don't allow them to get jobs. We don't allow them to make their own decisions. We don't allow them to fall and pick themselves up. We do everything for them as mothers because they're killing our Black boys. But guess what? We are killing our Black men. Yes, you can drag me for that tomorrow if you want to. I don't care. But if you really think about it, we mothers are part of the problem. And I'm not saying we're all of the problem. We are part of the problem. And I say that full chest. I spoke to at least 6 mothers in the past week because of what I was going through. And they all seem to have the same problem. And we all, when I put all of us on the phone together, we could all see where we all went wrong. We didn't have boundaries. We overprotected. We overindulged. We gave them things that they didn't earn, to the point that one of my friend's children, the sons, told her that I didn't ask you. You just always gave me. My son, when I called him, a few days ago to say, oh, you're going to college, you're going back to school, yada, yada, yada. What's going on with you? How much money do you need? He's like, you don't have to give me money. When I need money, I'll call you. I'm not a bank machine. He hasn't called me all month since he's been on vacation. All month. We have to start to address these issues, because when these men grow up, when these men grow boys in men's skin, become 18 and they start exercising their rights to be adults, when we've never allowed them to adult, and now they want to start a journey and they don't have the tools because they've never made any arrangements. They've never, I mean, I used to do everything for my kids, and you guys used to clap for me. You used to tell me I'm a great parent. Yeah, Moji, on it. 3 days ago, I finally said enough. We mothers, biological mothers, need to stop making ourselves doormats and second-class citizens to our children. Remember 4 years ago, I started this thing about my life is not my children. Oh, my eyes are seeing pepe. Half the stuff I've seen, I'm putting it in my book. I'm not going to talk about it too much, because I think people need to really understand that parenting is a choice. Nobody's forcing you to have a child. Nobody's making, society in Africa, if you don't have a child by 20 something, they're all bugging you. I always wanted children. Always wanted children. I read all the books in the world that I could find on parenting before I decided to have my first child. I was 26. But part of the reason why I had the child when I had my first two girls was because society was pressuring me. When are you having a child? Oh my God, your sisters are getting married. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I had a kid. And then I had another one because I'm the only one in my dad's house. I didn't want her to be the only one in her father's house, thinking they were going to be tied. No, not that way. Every child is a different individual. Every child is a human being with full autonomy to absolutely make their own choices. And their choices could be good or bad. It's not me. My job is to give them the tools, proper education, boundaries, set them straight with laws, help them to attain self-confidence, help them to eat. Some of you guys feed your kids French fries and all day because that's what they want. You can't give children what they want all the time, because the real world isn't like that. And then when they get into the real world and they find that you cannot always have what you want, then there's a problem. Then they start stealing, they start doing drugs, they fall into depression because they never built the grit muscle. At some point, we need to start asking that question: how are we training our children? And we must stop raising our children. Our children are not toys. Our children are not baby Kingsway. Our children are humans with full autonomy. I mean, how in the world do we believe we're raising people, human beings? You can give them all the tools, but if you don't allow them to exercise that muscle, when they become 18 and it's time to go to college, they don't know how to behave because you've always woken them up to go to class. Guilty. You've always told them about their homework. Guilty. You've always paid for everything. No matter what it is that they want, a lot of us are not allowing our children to earn their way in life. So when they become adults, they have never learned how to earn anything. Yeah. I'm sorry if this is like too strong a topic for you guys, but if we don't start to talk about this, a lot of people are marrying out of their race, because even the white people that we're trying to copy, they have boundaries. The richest people in the world have their children working at McDonald's and Burger King. When I from a certain age or graduate from university in Nigeria, you make them the CEO, they've never learned anything. Most corporate owners, most millionaires that I have engaged with in the United States, most of them are white. Most of them have their children working for some, or at least starting in the mailroom so they could learn the business up. And you wonder why when they die and hand their businesses to their children, the stuff falls apart, because they never learned. They don't have the skills. We are raising a bunch of self-entitled, spoiled brats. their attention span is 7 seconds flat. Google it. That's why Twitter is the most popular forums for the younger generation, because they don't have to write a lot. That's why a lot of children can no longer even sit down and read a book, because all they do is they read a little bit about, the back of the book, and they flip through and skim through the book. They don't read the whole. Even in school, in America, they don't hold people back. I've never met a single person that repeated a class in my life. In Nigeria, you didn't want to wear that same uniform next year because everybody will know that you're repeating. Tell the truth to your children. They're considered abusive, manipulative, a bad parent. So they grow up living in reality that the world rewards them when it doesn't. When you cook food and your child doesn't eat it in Africa, they're starving. That's how I learned to eat anything in front of me within reason. And I'm 57 years old now. I can pick and choose what I want on my plate because I, Moji, work for it. But me cooking 3 different meals for my children, because one doesn't like this one or one doesn't like that one, when they left the house, they had to unlearn every bad habit I've given them, from being overly protective, overly loving, overly engaged in their lives. That's why you find mothers, when they hit my age, guess what? They have something they call I don't know, I'm sure it's in Nigeria as well, emptiness syndrome, because they don't have their life. Or they submerge their life into their child's life, who's now married to somebody else, and they can't get along. Or they become this new trend in Nigeria where everybody's running around with their grandchildren as their handbags. It's like, honey, I'm 57. This is going to be the flyest 10, 20, 30, whatever number of years I have left. I've done my bit. Now it's your turn to go and figure out your life. I'll be there to guide you. But if we continue to do everything for our children, they'll never learn how to do anything for themselves. They'll never learn how to raise themselves. They'll never learn how to deal with conflicts in their life. At some point, we can no longer use slavery and the colonial masters and pretty much everything, because honey, it'll always be there. It'll always be. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi today, so my apologies. But the bottom line is, we need to check ourselves. We need to understand how we're training our children. Because like I said, a basketball player gets trained for when he shows up on court. A tennis player trains for many years in the sun, in the rain, in the winter, every day, trying to get to the Olympics. And go up at the Olympics, they're there by themselves. Their coach does not go on the court with them or on the field. He stands at the sidelines, giving her more advice. We have to stop training our children and we have to stop raising our children and start to train them to become the best version of themselves, to learn how to deal with conflict, to respect adults, but to respect all people, including themselves. We train our children, especially single mothers, to respect us as human beings, not even forget the fact that they're their mom. But you have to let them know who the parent is and who the child is. And I'm not saying you should beat your children, please, God forbid. I'm not into that. I'm saying there has to be a way that your children engage with you that's different from the way your parents engage with you. You are the authority figure. If you don't teach them to authority figure, they will go out there, lose jobs every day because they don't understand authority figure. They will go out there, engage in the wrong way with police that could get them in trouble. They will go out there not understanding that they need to stand in their authenticity, integrity, morality, compassion, empathy. Has no sex, it has no gender, it has no race, it has no tribe. So if we don't stop raising this people, I stopped calling my children children, because every time I call them children, right, my brain does this thing where all I see is the little babies I brought home. So I started to call them people. And then I started to treat them like people. Because when you treat them like people, you're not authoritative, you're engaging, you have dialogue, you're still stern, you still stand firm, but you don't allow them to walk all over you. You don't allow them to gaslight you. You don't allow them to treat you like garbage. And part of the problem I see is that a lot of us biological mothers that had to raise these children alone have this huge guilt. So we overcompensate by giving them everything they want, by doing everything for them, by not eating ourselves and food, not understanding that we have to nurture our soul and our spirit. And by doing that, we're teaching them how to nurture their soul and their spirit and respecting other people's position in life. That's why you find a lot of bullying on social media by this younger generation. That's why you find a lot of people, a lot of them have become keyboard warriors. How do you raise children that don't respect human lives? How do you raise children that go and abuse people, call them fat on their pictures? I don't care if it's their age mates or if it's an adult. We're all human. There's so much lack of compassion these days because mothers, especially mothers, have taught this, taught our children that we don't matter. So they go out there and treat other people the same way. Imagine how they treat their partners. I don't care if they're straight or gay. If they don't treat you well at home, if compassion, empathy, and for you, they will not treat other people. And we are the guardian. We are the ones. We're the goalkeepers here. But it's still up to the player to kick the ball towards the goal. So if we give them the tools and we talk, but we don't allow them to use those tools in real life, when they get to become 18 and up, they feel and look handicapped. So I'm asking you guys today, all 5 of you that are on this thread, because this is a topic that most people don't want to talk about. I'm asking you to please, in the name of God, start training your children as human beings that are going to go out there into the rest of the world. Start training them, not raising them. You raise a plant that has no brain cells. You raise a plant that has no feelings. You raise a plant, even a plant, if you don't give it the right nurture, it's going to, what? It's going to die. It's time we start raising our children and stop looking for the world to applaud us because we're so cool like that. And even the white man that we're trying to emulate, they have boundaries. They created the word boundaries. They have boundaries for their children. They make their children a house. If you're in the UK, you know what I'm talking about. Children leave their house by 16 or start paying their parents' rent. That's because they're preparing them for the future. They're teaching them how to manage their money. But we want to complain about other people's children. When your child goes out with people and they get in trouble, it's always the children that they're hanging out with. We forget that maybe it could be our child that's like the baby kid. And a lot of you single mothers, you don't think about why you're not able to keep relationships, right? You need to sit down and analyze your family dynamic in your house. Are your children disrespectful? Because one of my wife's greatest issues, we don't fight. The only time we have a big problem is when the kids do something to me and I just, because when somebody loves you, they don't want other people to mistreat you. So when your children are disrespectful to you, it affects your relationship. When your children are disrespectful to you, they will be disrespectful to your partner. They'll be disrespectful to other people, your friends, your dogs, your cats. And your relationships won't work if your whole life revolves your children because there's no room for anybody else. We forget that our relationships with our children are maternal and our relationships with our partners are erotic and romantic. No competition. I was on a thread the other day and somebody says, oh, there's no room for anybody in my life at the, there's no room in my life for anything else but my children. I was like, shukwu to you. And I wrote it on the thread. I said, look, when you hit 50 and your children are out of the house, you're going to lose your mind because you never created your own life. And those are the mothers that become the nosy mothers that wants to know why the wife is spending this money, or why the wife of the son is, or why the husband is not doing this. And then you want them to build you a house because you gave birth to them, honey. Nobody asked you. I used to be one of those mothers that always complained about, oh my God, if my child says he's not doing something, I'm like, oh my God, I carried you for 9 months. Oh my God, I gave up this many houses for you. Nobody asked me. I volunteered. Your job is a volunteer job. And in a volunteer job, you don't expect to be paid. You expect to give your all and your best. And you can quit anytime you want to. Unfortunately, with parenting, it's a lifetime sentence. But if you don't equip you with your children with the tools to be able to live independently, they'll never leave. There's a lot of incels. I have a lot of friends whose kids are 40, 50 years old and they live in their basement. They're on the computer all day long. They never leave the house. They don't do anything. They don't go out. And then the mothers are like, oh my God, what happened? What happened is you never gave them the tools. You didn't train them. You made life too easy for them to stay in your home. Yeah. Imagine if we start asking our 18-year-olds to parent. They will want to get out. And the earlier they are independent, it doesn't mean they can't live in your home. But the earlier you give them the tools to become productive adults, the better your life will be when you start getting older. The easier their life will be because they know how to manage their money. They know they exercise the muscle of emotional intelligence. They are respectful, they're compassionate, empathetic. And the world, just the view, the lenses that view the world with is going to be totally different. I love being around young people that are confident, that are healthy, mentally, emotionally. But I beg, let's even talk about this mentally. If you yourself are not mentally healthy, it's impossible to raise healthy children. If you yourself are not emotionally healthy, you cannot raise healthy children. That's why I realized that the healthier I became, the more challenging my relationship with my children was, because the things that I allowed them to do to me in the past, I no longer allowed them to do. So the boundaries were being created and they were not used to having boundaries. And a lot of you guys, I need you to please stop making your children your life partner. They need to understand that they're your children, and no matter what, they'll always be your children. But you got to put that boundary there. You have to create a boundary where they know that you are an entire human being and you deserve respect, you deserve love, you deserve compassion. Did I just tell you my son, my brother and my son, for 3 months, called us twice. This Christmas is back in New York, called me 0 times. It's almost a month. If I don't text, he doesn't text. If I don't call, he doesn't call. And that's because I never, ever just stood still and allowed him to miss me. Always feels I'll always be there. And guess what? The more boundaries I put around myself, look, I'm looking amazing. I am totally feeling great from inside, because too many times we're made to feel ashamed of the choices that those people make. I call those people our children because they are human beings. But this thing about children being your responsibility, 90 years old, God forbid, fire and hell. Me, I am going to be living my life. I've been living my life for the past 15 years. I came out of the closet. As a gay woman, I'm just like glowing. I'm 57 years old and I've never felt better because now my self-love is overflowing. It allows me to love other people with boundaries. I don't have to control anybody's choices. When I call the kid and say, Oga, you're going to school, how much money should I send you? And he says to me, you don't have to give me money, but in a very rude, condescending way. I'm like, you haven't called me. Oh, he said, oh, I was busy. Oh, okay. If you're too busy to call me and you're telling me I shouldn't give you money, okay, go sort yourself out. And I'm on allowing him to understand exactly what he did. We don't allow our children to suffer the consequences of their choices. So when they get out into the world and their friends want to do crazy things that could land them in jail, their brain is not working. They just do follow, because we never allow them to suffer the consequences of their choices. We got to start. We have to start to train our children and not try raising them. Because, I'm not God. The way God wired my child is different from the way he wired or everybody else. The way I'm wired is different from the way somebody else is wired. So we have to get to understand these children and understand what motivates them, what makes them feel unloved, and stop giving this one-dimensional style of training. It doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's not going to be a doctor. Everybody's not going to be a lawyer. You just want to, I pray my children are the best version of themselves, regardless of what they choose to do with their life. Excellence is what I preach. And I do not leave L-I-V-E, through my children. I have my own businesses. I have my own life. I have my wife. I have a dog, a cow, 2 lambs, and God knows I'm going to attain along the way. I don't owe anybody anything but to speak in truth and to guide them. That's my job. See, this arrogance that a lot of us parents have, that we can create people, we can mold them. Yeah, you can give them directions, but they have to meet you halfway. Even a basketball player that's the best in the world, Michael Jordan, allegedly is the best, or one of the best, will tell you that he failed many times getting the ball in the hoop before he became as good as he is. But we don't want our children to fall. We don't want them to bruise. We don't want them to make mistakes. So we're always walking around throwing cushions under them. And when they get older, the first time they fall, they crash because they never learned how to come back up. Take it from me. The sooner you give boundaries to your children, the sooner you let them know that you are a full human being and you have your own life to live and they have their own to build, and your responsibility is just to give them the tools and stop paying all the bills. Stop buying them $300 sneakers that they can't afford. Because if an 18-year-old guy goes out today with a high school diploma, he'll be making minimum wage. You're buying him a $300 pair of shoes. I repeat, you buying him a $300 pair of shoes. If you divide that by what? $10 an hour, that's 30 hours. He has to work for that money. And when he grows up wearing all those fancy things, and then he goes into the real world and he realizes $30, 30 hours to buy a pair of sneakers, then he might want to sell drugs. He might want to do mago and 419 and all that. And when your children bring things home that you know they can afford, you need to ask them where they got it from. A lot of you guys, your children buy you Louis Vuitton, they buy you Coach and all that stuff, and you're not asking them how they got it. Financial literacy in the Black community, zero. We're not training our children. And we want to blame it on slavery. We want to blame it on everything else. But the fact that we have not been good coaches. I'm a certified life coach. The past 6 years has taught me a lot. I became a certified life coach just so I understand how to get people from point A to point B. My children are the people I'm talking about. And then, oh my God, Moji, you teach other people everything you should be teaching your children. I mean, what is wrong with me? Yeah, I had to say that to myself because the guilt of all the things that I'd been through, which is only normal, held me back from saying no when I should have said no. And today we're all paying the price for that. So I bring it to you guys. I bring it to the table. We need to do better. We must understand that the children that we're raising is gifted to us actually by the Creator, whatever you call the Creator, God, Buddha, Allah, Jesus Christ, whatever. Olodumare, I don't care what it is, but whatever the Creator is to you, that child is entrusted in you, in your hands, so that you can guide them, train them to become productive human beings, first and foremost for themselves, and then to society. But I see a lot of human beings walking around the universe broken because we are not allowing them to build grit. We are not allowing them to respect themselves. We're not allowing them to fall and learn how to pick themselves up. But if you as a parent do not heal yourself and go on a journey to self, it's difficult to get where I am today. I'm going to be on Clubhouse at 2 p.m. today. We're going to be starting the book, Find Your Why. It's in the Authentic Transformation Club. I like doing books on this medium because I can hear people. You can come there and voice your opinion. Nobody's looking at your face, no capturing your whatever. Just show up and let's start this journey to self together. I've been on this journey for many years. That's how I attained the tools that I'm bringing to the table. And as I grow, some of my children are coming with me, but some of them are having a hard time to come along because it's new. They'll get there on their own time when life has shown them pepper like it showed me. But there's no reason for all your children to go through what I'm going through or for you to go through what I've been through. Join me on Clubhouse today, 2 p.m. Central Time. I believe Nigeria is 8 p.m. I'm not even 9 p.m., 7 plus 2. And let's start the journey to self so that we can start to train healthy children that will become healthy people with compassion, empathy, and so much more. I'm going to post the link on this thread, and I hope you join me. Please share the video. And definitely, if you want to come into the studio, here's the link. Come in, because I know I'm not the only one going through this. I just know it. It's not possible that I'm the only one going through this. It's not possible I'm the only one with, children that are like absolutely self-centered, everything's about them, because I have made them the center of my universe in the past. You can't have a healthy romantic relationship with another adult if you're a single parent, because there's no space. Your romantic space, your erotic space has been eroded by your baby kids. Okay, sorry, I used the word baby, but they've been eroded by your children. And then a lot of women sit there and complain, oh my God, I can't find, men are bastards, women with children. Honey, I looked at my wife one day, I said, thank God you don't have children. If anything ever happens between me and you, I will never be with the person that has children. And I have 4 kids. But the pepe I've been shown. And it's not really their fault. It's the way I constructed my life. Believing Oyibo people don't discipline their kids. They take away phones. I took it didn't work. Took away computers. I didn't take it away long enough. After 2 days of him begging me for it, I gave it back. Whose fault is that? Mine, not his. But now it's my turn. It's up to me to correct that if I truly love my children. That's why it's called tough love. And if you don't start giving your children tough love, honey, they're going to go out there and not know how to engage in the real world because we have built a false reality for them. Again, my name is Moji Solo Wilson. Since nobody wants to come into the studio with me, I'm going to end this thing, but meet me in the Transformation Room. We're starting a book called Find Your Why by Sinek today, 2 p.m. Join me in that on Clubhouse in the Authentic Transformation Room, where we can all hear each other's voice and we can all contribute to the discussion. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. Thank you all for being here. I hope, and I hope you will share this video with other people in the hope that we all, right, are planning on having children, our children, go into the real world as healthy, compassionate, empathetic, respectful adults that respect and give all of that love to themselves. And then it will bleed into the lives of others. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. See you soon.